Oh, that's why. It's not even on. Give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. And I think I'm good to go. Had my mic off. My bad. Before I continue, let me make sure I'm good. Hope y'all doing great. Hope y'all doing well. Everybody hope having a great week so far. Just let the room load for a little bit. Not a lot, baby girl, just a little bit. Yes, I'm not sure if you saw the title, but yeah, people are copping deals right now. So you may wanna. There we go. Yeah, people are copping deals right now, and I think you gotta be aware of it because this is your time to shine at the same time. Hey, I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, but give me 1 second. I'm just getting my stuff set up here. But yeah, people are getting deals. It's up to you to truly indeed take advantage of it, or at least be able to take advantage of it. And the best way to do that is, of course, put yourself out there, put yourself in the market, because the deals are already out there. It's not gonna show up on this one, right? Yeah. Maybe if I throw up this one, it will show up. I forgot all about that. So we're purely gonna be talking about opportunities that already exist in this market and showing you guys, because I know a lot of people right now who are still on the sidelines, and I'm like, y'all keep waiting, y'all gonna be pissed off even more, and you're not gonna be pissed off at me. I'll tell you that for sure. You can't be pissed off at me. I had this whole thing highlighted, and it didn't even come through. I wonder why. There it is. Took some time to do that. But even if we're talking about deals and all that, I understand where we're at in terms of just the whole landscape of the real estate market. Right, it may not be the opportunity that you see out there. You still probably see prices are not where you want them to be. Right, same thing goes for the interest rates or mortgage rates. So I get it, but right now, what's happening is a lot of people are creating their ideal situation, like quite literally. I'll even talk about a buddy of mine who literally he compared what it was for him to rent and what it was for him to own, and he was like, "I'm only saving a few dollars by renting." And so he put himself out there and found himself an opportunity, right? So this is what today's stream is. We're gonna really be all about is not only identifying those areas, also identifying what kind of deals are people even getting. What is it that you can even do? But are you even in the buyer's market? Are you in the seller's market? Because that is a big component of it right now. And then we'll go through it throughout this entire stream. But the Northeast right now, yes, if you're up there, don't even try to cop a deal because it's not going to be your best friend. All of Northeast, Midwest as well. Those are all markets right now that have just about seller's market still. May not be as a strong seller's market, but there's a seller's market for sure. Everywhere else, you can almost anticipate that it's in a buyer's market or about to enter one. So, if you want to find out what area specifically, definitely stick around. Also, if you want to know when is the best time to buy, the best months. I know a lot of people love to time things up. But if you want to know when the best time is, then yeah, we're going to definitely share some of that as well. So, but the last stream, I don't know if you were tapped in. If you were, shout outs to you. Hit me on the replay. Let me know. Do whatever you gotta do. Just let me know if you are in the chat. No, I don't think we got. No, not right now. But in itself, the last stream we talked about was home buyer mistakes. I did a poll, and it was actually coincidental that it worked out just the way it wanted to work out. But most people were. I shouldn't say most people. It was a few people that were like, scared of making a mistake, which completely understandable. So we did an entire stream talking about home buyer mistakes that I'm still seeing today in today's market. So I actually dealt with one yesterday, and it's like, man, it's not much that I can do, right? Because it's especially if we're working together. Of course, there's I have a little bit more control to kind of hope and sway that you don't make these mistakes. But if you're just trying to get started, and it's like, man, all I say is this one thing: reach out a little bit earlier and sooner, especially if you're unsure on where you're at in the housing market or where you're at just financially, emotionally, whatever you're trying to figure out within the real estate market. Reach out. That's the best thing you can do. It's better to reach out early than to reach out later, and you see a house that you like but you're not prepared. That is what I'm seeing a lot of still, unfortunately, in this market. So the big top hot news you'll probably continuously hear for the next couple of weeks or so. Yes, the Feds they cut rates, but they'd have very little to do with mortgage rates. So mortgage rates may come down. Who knows? If it does, it's not going to do a significant. But just want to share that because you're going to see probably a bunch of different news articles, videos, people talking about it. It was already expected. Let's just put it like that. So it shouldn't really do that much of lower rates unless if something crazy happens. In fact, I hope you guys are all not still waiting for interest rates to come down or mortgage rates, because if you are playing the wrong game. Very much so the wrong game. And I say that because literally I know people who are getting 5% interest rates right now. Mortgage rates, interest rates, same thing, right? But if you are here with me right now, let me know where you're tapping in from. Maybe I can do a deep dive into your local market in itself. But here we're going to talk about the housing market, specifically where are home buyers copping deals so that you could maybe get one yourself. All right. My journey and my goal here, I shouldn't say this channel specifically, is to make sure that you as a home buyer, you have an advantage. A place where you can go to and be like, all right, I need some information. I need some game, Roney. What's going on in the housing market? How is it that I can position myself? Right. This is what this entire stream is really, entire channel, not even just this stream. I mean, this stream allows us, right, to go back and forth with one another to really identify, where you're at. Even if you want to give me your friend scenario, right? I see that a lot. People want to share their friend scenario rather than their own, and, kind of see how to navigate it. You could do that as well. But let me go ahead and share my screen here, so we can dive into the article in itself. Let me zoom in. Yes, home buyers are copping the biggest discounts, I would say. And this is real specific, right? The biggest discount as of the autumn, like I guess, the fall market. I think that's important to state here because, granted, we won't probably see too much of it, but what's it called? The winter market could be even better, right? Who knows? But not many people like to move during those times, so I don't really anticipate too much to happen then. Why is it that y'all are not see my screen? I hope you can see my screen. You can. This is just lagging. That's what it is. Perfection at its finest. Okay, cool. So the typical home right here, it says the typical home that sold last month went for 1.4 less than its final list price. So wherever the home was listed for, just imagine that individuals were getting at least 1%, just about 1.5% off of whatever the initial list price was. Right, that's the biggest discount that, I guess, reference is stating here that the market has seen since 2019. Right, we're talking about pre-COVID, essentially. So if this doesn't tell you it's a telltale sign to go ahead and negotiate, then I don't know what else is. Another good way you can dictate, or at least can tell, or at least dictate whether it's you're able to negotiate is by days on market. So that's the easiest way to tell whether you're going to be able to negotiate in a specific market. I know based off of what's stated here, the typical home that sold spent about 50 days on the market before actually selling, right? And that's the slowest pace in nearly a decade. So just if you do see a home that's on the market for a very long time, pump your brakes. You don't have to speed up. You don't really have to do anything. You just ask more questions and try to see what the scenario is like. Try to get a better understanding of what exactly, whether it's you. I honestly, I highly recommend making sure that the agent that you're working with is reaching out to try to understand the scenario so that you don't necessarily do more than what you don't already have to do. If you're working with somebody or at least if you ask an agent and they're like, no, I just write whatever offer that you accept, that you want me to write based off of, maybe they're pulling comps or they're just telling you to go in at list price. If they don't have a conversation with the listing agent, oof, they are shooting you in the foot like 3 times, bro. If you guys remember that movie 8 Mile, I'm not gonna say exactly what happened when B Rabbit, when he shot himself, like that's literally what's happening. I think it's B Rabbit. I forgot his exact acting name, but that's one of the crucial things. Everyone that I typically work with, we all make sure that we're reaching out to the listing agent. At least I do it for my clients. I can't control everybody else, but we reach out just to get that a little piece of additional information that can help us write that offer and construct it to a way where it's not offensive, right? One, it's not offensive, but if we are gonna if we're gonna offend them, then I'm personally, hey, we're not calling. We just gonna do what we gotta do here, and they'll either accept, decline, or counter. Those are the only 3 things that can happen. Worst case scenario is no, but once you have individual that you're working with and they're okay with, hearing no, it's easier to, kind of just make those offers and offend people. But try not to do it too much because it's not a good look overall. Especially if they have multiple homes on the market, then, they probably won't try to do business with you at all. But yes, an easy telltale sign is to give the listing agent a call. I mean, you'll do yourself a huge favor there. But the thing that also to keep in mind, or at least look at a little bit more, sellers are, whenever they're not getting what they want, they are pulling back, meaning they're taking their home off the market. And what's that going to do? It's just going to push prices up even more because there's less inventory, less active listings, I should say, on the market. So that's one of the things where if sellers continuously do that, I don't know how much, how favorable it's going to be for everybody else, at least for you as a buyer. If none of this is making sense or you want clarity specifically on what's going on in your world or your market, then go ahead and drop it in the chat and let me know where is it that you guys are tapping in from. That way we can maybe cover that a little bit more. But the shares of homes selling above list price, so it's only 25%, which I'm going to anticipate without even looking at 25% of that, or that is really geared towards specific markets, right? Mainly the Northeast and the Midwest. I think I have a picture that I can share with you to show you all what markets are really. Let me see. I should be able to pull something up here. And it's going to essentially show you based off of inventory. And then we can probably even, I don't remember if I don't think I have it here with me. But this here just shows you with inventory specifically. It doesn't talk about anything else other than inventory, but anything that's in green, there's a high possibility that those are not places that are getting overbid on in terms of homes. It's mainly these down here, right? So when I say Northeast and Midwest, I'll zoom in for you. When I say Northeast and Midwest, New York, Connecticut, Illinois. I'm not sure about Alaska. I haven't looked at that at all. Rhode Island, New Jersey, Maine, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, I have definitely seen, have, what's another one in the Midwest? Michigan. Where's Michigan at? It's probably one of these smaller ones, but Michigan is another one. Unfortunately, it's just not labeled here. I can't pull up the other one, but it's okay. But so that's some of those markets that are getting the above list price. So if people are talking like, yeah, some markets are getting are still going above asking, that is true indeed. It all depends on the market though. Let's go ahead and move forward. But so list to sell ratio. So again, this is kind of going back to the 1.4 that we saw. So 1.4. So essentially, sellers are getting 98.6% of whatever they are asking for, and shares of homes selling in 2 weeks. So 32%, almost 33% of homes that want to contract this out within 2 weeks of being listed. As we know, 50 days on markets was the average, and that's at least what was occurring in September specifically. Essentially, the longer the home sits on the market, the less the price is. So that's why if you do see a home that's on the market and it's been on the market for quite some time, and I mean, you could see this on Zillow, whether they did price cuts. You don't even need a real estate agent at that point. You can easily see that information. But you can easily just see the price cuts. If there hasn't been any price cuts, then maybe you take it upon yourself to do what you got to do. But I'm giving you all the pointers that you must look at to see how is it that you can go ahead and get yourself a good deal in this market. Even in those sellers market, you might still be able to. It may be harder, right? Because everybody's trying to go after the same thing. But if you see a home that nobody really likes and you really gotta question, is it worth moving forward? What's really going on? Why does nobody want this? Don't just. I know a lot of, and this is honestly, I see this happen a lot. When there's when I'm working with clients, they always sometimes a client will ask me, how many days on market has this been on? And I'll share it with them. There's two expressions that I get. Oh, it's new. So it's like, okay, it's new, or it's been on the market for some time. For some time, it's like, oh, well, why doesn't anybody else want this, right? So immediately, sometimes what happens there is the client is just turned off entirely, because there's something going on there that nobody wants this home. So that I don't want. If you're tapping into this, don't do that, because it could just be expectations other people have were not met. But if your expectations are met, then hey, do a little bit digging. Maybe you don't have to make an offer, but at least try to get some more questions answered, and that way you can go ahead and you should be able to have a little bit of clarity as far as if you should even move forward or not. But don't get turned off just because you see a lot of higher days on market. I mean, that's this. Jeez, this is the market that we're in right now. We're going to see more days on market, especially now that we're going into the fall and the winter. Homes naturally sit much longer during the fall and winter, and in the fall and winter, other than the spring and summer. The spring and summer, things typically move relatively quickly. As we know, inventory has been ticking up. Well, if you didn't know, now you know. And then that picture I just kind of showed you is essentially sharing the same exact thing, right? So I have like older versions of it that I could really share with you. That way you can see like how it's changed over time. But I am not going to do that right now. If you really, really want that, then you can always go ahead and reach out. Let's see, home price post biggest increase in 6 months. So the median home price rose 1.7 year over year. So this is exactly what I was stating with sellers that get their home off the market. So it's a weird phenomenon that we're in. I was saying the real estate market, right? You have high, well, some people will say high, some people will say normal mortgage rates. Call it whatever you want, but mortgage rates within the sixes, and then we have prices that are consistently kind of going up, or kind of staying level, flat, stable, whatever. But they're not really doing a big dip or a decrease that a lot of people are anticipating or waiting for. So sellers are in control of that essentially. And I think that's why we see a 1.7 year over year increase in terms of home sale price essentially. It's because Sellers are taking. This is what I think, right? I think sellers are taking their home off the market, which they have every right to do that, because they are not getting what they want or their expectations won't be met. And so when that happens, naturally prices are going to bump up just because there's not a lot of options. It's like a push and pull situation, right? You do something and then somebody else does it, and then there's a whole ripple effect to it all. But that's the one thing I say. Don't get caught in this waiting for prices. Go out there and go find your price. Honestly, in this market specifically, what you really should be doing, you should not be looking at prices. You should not be paying too much attention to the mortgage rate. You should really understand what your budget is. Once you understand your budget, what you want your monthly mortgage to be, where is it that you would prefer to stay in, within, around, what are the rents going for in your area? Because I mean, if you can get a mortgage that is just about the same, or maybe a little bit more than rent, you pick and choose what makes more sense to you at that point. But the monthly payment is much more important in today's market than looking at price and mortgage rates, because both of those can and will be manipulated, like, quite honestly. That's what a lot of people are doing. I mean, that's literally what I'm doing. If there's a scenario where I know, like, this just happened a couple months ago where I did this for a client, they're like, yep, I need a monthly payment of X, Y, and Z. And I was like, all right, cool. I knew exactly where we needed to stay around. I knew not necessarily exact rate. I just knew that, okay, in order for this to happen in this price point, we need this rate. So it's navigating through those scenarios in itself. And you can always, your lender can always provide you with this information well before you make an offer. So you don't even have to worry about, you know, how am I going to know this, that my payment is going to be X, Y, and Z. It's your lender is going to provide you with a loan estimate, and from that loan estimate in itself, you'll get the breakdown in terms of closing costs. You'll get your breakdown in terms of what your monthly payment may be. Of course, if nothing changes, and if you lock your rate in, if nothing if nothing changes, essentially. But that's what I would say, right? That's my 2 cents here. I mean, I think that's the one thing that a lot of people should be focusing in on, is the monthly payment rather than the prices. The price is the price. It's just a number. It's literally a number that was just slapped onto it based off of what other people are willing to pay for it. But what's more important is, hey, can you make these payments on a consistent basis for the next however long you decide to live there? So, if you're banking on prices to come down, then continue to wait. Let me know how that goes. Because it says home price growth was slowing during the first half of the year because inventory was rising. Right. While buyers still have a lot more options than they had in recent years, listings have started to tick down in recent months, which has turned again to push prices up, as I kind of already been mentioning here. And I think that's all this here. I'm gonna talk about this one here. Yeah, we don't necessarily need to dive into any of this. I'm just making sure. So here's different markets if you guys really want to go ahead and take a look at this and how they performed in, this should be September. So let's see which market got hurt the most in terms of prices. Milwaukee went up the most, 9.1. Anaheim, California, that don't make sense. Okay, there we go. Dallas, Texas. Seems like Texas is getting beat. Even Georgia is in this. Oh, wow. So, I'm surprised not to see Raleigh. Maybe they didn't put this in the market in this list here. Yeah, Raleigh should definitely be somewhere close to the flat range. But Dallas, Texas right now is the one that's getting punished for the most part. If you didn't know, but now you know. In fact, let me go ahead and pull this up for you. As you guys were just able to see, it was Texas that was getting hurt a lot. And there you go, So as you guys can see, it states it here. Austin, Texas is America's strongest buyer's market with over twice as many homes, twice as many home sellers as buyers. Yeah. So, Austin, Texas. If you looking for something there, you might want to strike, or you could continuously wait. Yeah. I think I don't know if y'all remember seeing this pretty picture here, but this picture here is essentially what, not exactly what Austin, Texas is experiencing, but very similar, right? So when we say twice as many home sellers than there are buyers, then that means there's a lot of sellers trying to get out, but not enough buyers trying to purchase. So that's essentially what everybody's up against. In fact, let me know in the comments or even in chat if you're looking in Dallas, Texas. I got a plug out there that I can connect you to. And, it'll take care of you. It'll take care of you. Here's some other markets in itself that you can go ahead and preview, or at least see what other buyer markets there are out there. So, as you guys can see, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, West Palm Beach, Miami, Florida, Nashville, Tennessee, San Antonio, Texas, Dallas, Texas, Jacksonville, Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada, and Houston, Texas. So these are all markets that you can go ahead and get a deal in. It actually even tells you how many sellers and buyers there are, which is pretty cool. So the only thing I would say about this, and this is where things could get tricky, is you can see how many sellers there are in the market, but you really won't know how much actual buyers there are. So that's why I know Redfin, they have their own agency, so they're able to represent buyers, which I'm assuming that's the buyers that they're mentioning here are their buyers that they're representing or working with. But other than that, I don't know how they would know exactly, because even there's people I'm working with that, they're not actively looking, but they're getting ready to look. So is that considered a buyer or not? But overall, these are the markets where there are more sellers than buyers, so you should know what to do there. I just showed you that picture, so. Yeah, that's fine. We can move on from this one. Because, yes, I know that you guys are all banking on prices, but literally, you can quite honestly see what's been really happening with, at least this is about all homes that have been getting canceled. Well, not all homes that have been getting canceled, but buyers who have been canceling their contracts after getting under contract on a home in itself. So that number is at the highest as it was last year. But there's many different reasons why somebody may go out of contract. I don't know why I'm yawning so much. Maybe it is because I'm hungry and tired. The worst combinations. But the more and more that this continuously goes up, it's not good for sales, but it's just going to enable that buyer market to continue. So even if you see people canceling their contracts, this is the main reasons why I see people cancel their contracts, right? Something changed within their financial story or their financial profile is the best way I can say it. There's also, they found something in inspection. That's a big one. There's also, what's it called? If there is something that's found during the inspection, and you're going back and forth still negotiating with the seller, and y'all can't see eye to eye, that's another one. So negotiating essentially is a big piece that I do see. Contracts do fall out. I'm trying to think of if there's another one, But those are really the three ones, the three big ones. And the reason why they fall out so often, don't let these numbers kind of fool you here, because there are so many options. So it's like, I don't have to deal with this nonsense. you know, that's literally what I kind of experienced. Right? Many people, I don't even have to deal with this right now. I'll just go to another house. And so if that's the case, then that's no bueno for you as a seller. But as a buyer, it could be deceiving, as like, something could be actually wrong with the home, but it could really just have been the seller rather than the home in itself. I don't think there's anything else, right? That I'm trying to think of why people cancel their contracts. I know here in North Carolina, yeah, you don't want to really cancel your contracts. I'll tell you that right now. You better know when you're making an offer on a home, and this is for states that have a due diligence fee. So whatever, there's not that many states that have it, that do real estate like that. But if you're in a state or you're trying to purchase a home and they have a due diligence fee, not your due diligence period, where you go ahead and inspect the home, make sure the home is good and everything checks off, where you include your inspection contingency and all that good stuff, whatever. Here in North Carolina, the second that you literally purchase, or at least you want to make an offer on a home, you're putting up some money, right? So it's important to truly indeed know that this is the home you want to move forward with. Otherwise, you going in and out of contracts, or you're just throwing money to the seller at that point. You better be careful. You better be careful now. Now, if you're working in a state and your agent ain't tell you that, yeah, that's unfortunate. But I don't think this is too much that important. I don't think this is very, very important. Where our contracts really coming out of, where they're essentially, what I'm trying to say is, losing my train of thought. Where their contracts are coming out, where pending homes are falling out of contracts is probably a better way of saying that. But I definitely do want to just share with you in terms of pricing, right? So the places, I mean, the price ranges that we're seeing a lot of cuts, and when I say cuts is like, just sellers reducing their prices, is under the 300, no, not, it's 350,000 to 500,000, right? So that's where the highest share of homeowners are actually shaving off their price. Under 350 is not even second line, it's third in line. The next price range is 500,000 to 700, right? So between 350 and 500, that's the largest in terms of how many homeowners are doing price cuts, whereas 500 to 700,000 is next in line, and then it's under 350,000. That's how that all goes. Actually, surprisingly enough, it's over $1 million is the least. So those luxury buyers, those people that got cash, those whatever they got, they're not really cutting their prices, just because that's a completely different market that we won't even discuss here, because it's just quite honestly, it's not the same. If you're playing in that game, you have to really look at that market entirely different. So maybe even everything I just said earlier, right? If you're in a buyer's market, or at least if you're in that market that's a buyer's market and you're not seeing price cuts, but that luxury home has been on the market for quite some time, that could be normal, right? It's important to really understand what's going on in your local market, and the best way to do so is, if you can't or don't want to find the data, then get connected to someone. If you don't have anybody, you can always click the link in the description below next to agent referral, and I'll be more than happy to connect you to someone I know that can go ahead and do that deep dive for you, and hopefully you choose them to represent you so that they can take care of you. Because in this market, it's a fun market. Although it could be stressful, it's fun, because you have to get creative in this market. There's like no other way of doing it. Let me know if you have any questions, or if none of this is making sense. Um, I'm not gonna sit here and try to say I anticipate home prices to continuously come down. I know that's what this whole stream was really all about. Is people getting deals and getting at least 1.4% off of the list price, but that can change tomorrow. Honestly, all it takes is for one great news or bad news, and it could get better or it can get worse overnight. Quite literally. So I mean, this is the one thing I would say. If you're like in that space right now, trying to decide whether you're trying to rent or own, the best thing that you can do or should do at least. This is what I would do. I would look to see what the rents are going for in that area you're looking at already. Right. If you drop what area you're in, I'll do it for you. And I mean, all of this information you could probably find online. Find out what rents are going for. Once you find out what the rents are going for, then you can have an idea of, all right, if I were to purchase a home within that, ballpark, let's just use 2000 for instance, what kind of home can I get? Then you start looking at the homes and saying if it's worth it. Or you can even just go get a rent to own calculator. I'm actually working on one right now, fun fact. Maybe I'll provide that to you all first. That's not a bad idea. You guys can maybe test it out for me and see if it's valid or not. That'd be pretty fire. Well, maybe I'll just bring it out to stream one day. Once it's all said and done. And we can look at it all together. My brain is cooking right now. That's not a bad idea though. But yeah, there's rent-to-own calculators that you can go out there and go and look at. Again, the rent-to-own calculator is just gonna really tell you, how much are you actually saving, I would say, or how much are you spending. How much could you save over the course of owning versus renting, depending on how long. But this is the one thing, right? If you're trying to decide whether to rent or own, at least be in the area for minimum 5 years. If you're trying to be in and out of an area, don't lock yourself into a home, because as we can see, it's taking nearly 50 days or whatever, 2 months or so. Certain markets could be even longer of you to be able to sell your home. So if you're the type of person where you're like, yo, I'm ready to go, it's not a rental. It's not a rental where you can just cancel your lease, pay the fee, or maybe they just let you go, and you can go and search for something else. This is entirely different. There's a whole process, and there's a lot of money involved in it. So you don't want to put yourself in a position where you use all your money to purchase something just to essentially give it back because you didn't stay in the home too long, or you had to bring money to closing because you didn't stay in the house that long. Actually, I just thought about this. There's a home that I saw the other day. This is what I don't want to happen to anybody. There's at least anybody that I represent, anybody that I work with, I'd much rather you rent than if you were to go ahead and own and get put in this sort of situation. So I was looking at this home. In fact, a client of mine reached out and was like, "Yep, I'm looking at this house, highly considering it. So let's see if we can make an offer on it." I saw the home. They made an offer, so they've been in that home for maybe about just coming on to a year. Already going through a short sale situation, and I was like, "Man, that is not good." So a short sale situation means they're pretty much trying to get out that home quickly because it could be anything that's going wrong with the home in itself, or that seller's financial situation change. But so situations like that, I don't know the exact scenario. I didn't really, I'm not gonna want to share somebody's personal business like that, even if I did know, honestly. But it's one of those things where I hope it's, hey, they just realized that this wasn't a good purchase and they're just trying to get out of it. And that home was priced, I think, under 100,000 in comparison to where they bought it. I was like, man, they are going to get hurt so bad at closing, because now you have to bring money to the closing table in order to close the whole thing out. Because at the end of the day, you have a loan on this home. Well, that's if they had the loan on it. But that's the pieces where it's like, man, in this market in itself, like anyone who purchased from 2022 to maybe not so much 2022, I would say. Anybody that purchased in the last 2 years or so and they're trying to sell now, they're for sure under. They're for sure under. Unless if you're in a market like, Connecticut or Wisconsin that we saw. What else? Detroit, I think, was on that list as well, right? Those are the markets where you're still able to buy homes and, within a year or two, still have some gains. That way it's going to enable you to kind of be positive. But let me know if you do have any questions. Let me know if any of this is making sense. If you have a specific scenario or a question about the market that you're in, let me know in the chat right now. Or if you're watching on a replay, shout out to me on the replay real quick. Really let me know. I just thought about this too, though. I've been saying buyer's market, seller's market all throughout the stream. And probably some people are like, what in the hell is a buyer's market and seller's market? So my apologies, first and foremost. I will say a seller's market is when sellers are calling shots. A buyer's market is when the buyers are calling shots. When does this happen? A seller's market is when there's less than 6 months of inventory. So if we're talking, just look at how many, in the best way you can tell if you don't want to look on the data points or anything of that nature, is just if you're driving through the market that you're trying to purchase in and you see a lot of for sale signs, that's a buyer's market, right? If you don't see, well, I shouldn't have said that because that doesn't mean anything. Because just because you see a lot of for sale signs, it could be either one market. So let me use a different way of you to identify a buyer's or seller's market in real time. So if you are in the market and let's just say you're looking at homes. In fact, you see an open house. You see multiple open houses and they have a lot of people, looking at those homes. You're in a seller's market. But if you, pass by an open house and you see absolutely nobody, there's no line of anybody. You even speak to the agent that's inside. So how many people have stopped by and they tell you a number? If that number is really low, then chances are you're in a buyer's market, right? So it's based off of the activity, right? So the way the formal term is less than 6 months is considered less than 6 months of inventory is considered a seller's market. And then more than 6 months is considered a buyer's market. Some areas are already, I can show you the picture already. This is essentially how data-wise you can tell. But again, like I said, if you're trying to figure out in person, the best way is to see like how many people are actually actively looking at homes. If I show you this picture here, right? Granted, this is all showing you how many homes were, it's pre-pandemic inventory. So it is showing you inventory, but it's more or less showing you in comparison to pre-pandemic. So that's the only thing that I would say that sucks about seeing this here. It's because it's not necessarily going to say or mean that this is a buyer's or seller's market. But generally speaking, if anybody's down here, they're in a seller's market. Anybody's at the top here, then their chances are they're in the buyer's market. Right, so you can go ahead and take a picture of this, honestly. And this is Resi Club. All right, this is, shout out to Resi Club for providing this data. Didn't want to do that. Some of his articles are available, but if you pay for the paid version, then of course you get a little bit more exclusive information that I don't know if I can even share with y'all. You know what I mean? But that's that. You guys are awfully quiet in the chat today. You guys don't want to get a deal? Is that what you're telling me? You guys don't want to find out where the opportunities are? If that's the case, I could check up the deuces, and I still got the gym to go to. I still got to eat. Yeah. I I literally, I eat during this time. Like, I this is my time to eat. I literally come on here just to speak to you all and take out of my time to eat. But it's all good. If you guys aren't able to, and this is something I probably should have said in the beginning, like, I understand that, maybe this time of day doesn't work for a lot of you. What I do for many individuals that aren't able to tap in on Fridays, I actually have a newsletter that goes out in the morning that will kind of summarize this stream here. Probably have additional information that you can go ahead and hold on to instead of just trying to tap into the entire stream. This stream here is more or less to be more interactive, more helpful, more getting your questions answered specifically. So if you want to get tapped into that newsletter, essentially what it is, on a weekly basis, you'll get it every Friday. Just let me know. You can reach out to me, or I'll drop it in a chat. But just want to share that with you, just so you know, because I get it. Sometimes this time don't work. It don't even work for me sometimes. I have to make it work. Because if I don't show up, y'all gonna get on me. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, so when is the best months to purchase in? Kind of told you already. But if you really want to get specific and see for yourself, then you can see here. So this is by CNBC. They just put out an article that said, what's the best and worst months to purchase in, and they're doing it based off of square footage. Not square footage, sorry. The price per square foot. All right, so we can see April, May, June. Those are July. Probably, the worst months to really purchase in, and that's spring market, right? I told you. The spring and the summer markets, the hottest times to purchase a home. The hottest on the block. So anything outside of that, right? The fall, right? You can see it starts to, look at that increase in October. Interesting. What's happening there? People rushing to buy a home still? But in September, going all the way to March, really, it's slow. It's a slower time. You'll probably get a little bit more homes on the market. Maybe not. Because there's just less activity. There's less, transactions going on during this time. Most of the transactions, honestly, happen between literally March, I would say more or less May, June, July, and August. And it's really paired up. If you really look at things, it's really paired up with schools. That's the best comparison I can share with you. Whenever schools are out of session, that's when most people are, trying to look for a home, buy a home, or do something of that nature. And as you can see here, January, February, it starts to pick back up again, to vamp up. So right now we're in one of those times of, the slowest times. It's, as a buyer, if you're looking for, a deal, then it could be the best time. But if you're looking for the perfect home, you want the best option, then possibly you might want to look during the hottest time. But just be prepared to fight. And I say fight only because if a lot of people are looking, then you'll put yourself in a position of having to compete. And so here are where the motivated sellers are. So the red dots, the darker the red is, those are where the motivated sellers are. As we can see, Florida, Texas, that looks like Tennessee. No. Tennessee's here. That's North Carolina. That's Georgia. Yeah, this map doesn't really do a good job at sharing this. But what's over here? The mountains? Asheville, maybe? That's my guess. Interesting. But again, you see those blues? That's Northeast. That's the Midwest. That's where it's a seller's market. Those sellers are not motivated. They gonna get what they want, one way or another. Oh man. Because the room is dead, I was gonna talk about what's it called, where you can get some grant money, but y'all ain't show up. We're talking about $25,000 you can go ahead and get in Memphis. Well, this is essentially Tennessee speaking, right? We keep talking about Tennessee. I'm gonna just drop this. I'm not gonna go dive deep into it. So if you're still watching to this point, kudos to you. But it's called the Rise Up program. Just go Google that. They're giving out. I don't know if they extended it. I think they're either expanding it or they just extending it, or probably just they didn't hit what they wanted to hit just quite yet. But if you go ahead and, like I said, Rise Up program, just Google that to really get an idea of what the program's really all about, and see if it's something that you can take advantage of. I would go into it, but yeah, I ain't even pull up, man. Yeah, I'm gonna let y'all sit on this one. I'm gonna let you sit on this one. But for anybody that's like, you know what, they really want to purchase, they just don't really know where to start or where to go. This is where I'm gonna tap in and just kind of give you a little bit of game. First, you should really be considering new construction. If new construction is not going on in your area, then you have no choice but to go resell. And if you are really to, like, let's say, dependent on the mortgage rates, you should be looking into assuming somebody else's loan. You can only assume an FHA and a VA, but there's obviously a little bit more complications when we're talking about VA. So understand the scenario and understand what you as a buyer and the seller understands what they're getting themselves into, because it can get really complicated, really messy and nasty if it's not done properly. And it was just gonna be bad for everybody. So just really look. If you only have resale in your area, then just look to go ahead and go that route of assuming somebody else's loan. Just plenty of websites that's already out there that actually kind of gives you that information as far as what homes you can assume. If you don't know where to go, this is why you just reach out to me, get connected to me. We have the resources. We have everything that you possibly may need to be able to position yourself to become a homeowner. Right? That's what we do here. We make sure people are becoming homeowners in the right way, right? Because it could be, you can determine what the right way is for you. But I would say, personally speaking, go to new construction first. And if you can even pair your new construction purchase with a USDA loan or a VA loan, those are two 100% financing, which is phenomenal, right? If you don't have to go that route, you can put down a down payment, even better, right? Then, because your monthly payments are just going to be less. But really look at those USDA and VA loans. Unfortunately, the only thing with the USDA loan is you have to be more in a rural area or a developing area where new construction is going on, and that's kind of hard to find, right? It's not all the time new construction is going to be in rural or developing areas. So, there's also income requirements and limits to it as well. But I think that right there, if you compare your new construction with the USDA or a VA loan, because new construction, they're giving you closing costs. Well, for the most part, right? It depends on the builder. But they may give you closing costs. They may even give you a better rate than what you're going to find. I mean, right now, if I go and look, let me go ahead and look real quick. If I go to Mortgage News Daily and see what their rates are, it's going to be in the low five or high fives, sixes. Yeah, it's literally everything is sixes. The only thing that isn't is the 15-year, which is at 5.82, and then a 7.6 ARM, which is 5.9. But everything is in sixes. Everything. So, if sixes aren't something that you're trying to participate in, then you gotta assume somebody else's loan. But I will say, even with that, I'm recommending, or at least saying, go new construction. be careful because I'm seeing some developers, builders, they're offering ARMs, adjustable rate mortgage. Sorry. If you don't know what that is, just know. You remember what happened in 2008, where a lot of people's payments went up like overnight? Yeah, that's essentially what an ARM is. Not to say that that's what's going to happen to you if you go ahead and get an ARM, but you must understand how many years is it fixed for and how often is it going to change. You have to know this if you're even considering or thinking about an adjustable rate mortgage. Because if you don't know that your mortgage is about to change, then you can really get unexpected bill the following month, and you're like, what the hell happened to my mortgage payment? So, and no, it's not going to be property taxes, and no, it's not going to be your insurance, right? It's going to be the arm that you have, the type of loan that you have. And so just be careful with them. I'm seeing them more and more out in the market. I'm just want to make you aware so that you don't fall victim of that. Arms can be good, right? If you know what you're doing. I know a lot of people who will get them and they'll sell their home before that arm starts to change, right? Before the prices or their monthly payments start to change, or they'll even refinance, right? So there's ways and things that you can go ahead and do to get to go around the changing of the payments, especially if you're not satisfied with the way that the loan is already set up or whatever the case may be. So there's things you can do. So that was a quick game for you. As you all know, I do this on a bi-weekly basis where you can tap in 7 p.m. Eastern and we can learn a little bit more about what's going on in the housing market, right? Today was really all about tapping into what's going on with prices and where are the buyers market, so that you can go ahead and get an opportunity. Because what's going to sadden me is this, because this is what I see about to occur. All of 2026, we're going to see I think we're going to see very much so the same market that we're seeing right now. But when this thing turns around, which it can turn around for the better or for the worse. But if this thing turns around for the better, meaning better of the market, saying like, prices, people are now purchasing, buyers are back in the market, sellers are, getting their home sold. That's good for the market. It's not so good for you as a buyer, because now that means you have to compete. If it's worse, then are you still in position to purchase? And because this is the piece that a lot of people don't realize. If the market is bad, then if you did not prepare yourself now, then chances are you still have to make sure you still have good credit. You still have to make sure you have your job still. You still have to make sure you still have your cash reserves, right? There's so much that still is needed to be able to qualify for a home. So everybody that's banking for prices, it's like, man, if prices are coming down for real estate, then what's going on with the economy? What's going on with the world? What's going on with the financial markets, right? They if one thing goes, the next thing is gonna follow. If the real estate market, not even real estate, if stocks are starting to tank, the real estate market is gonna get punished. And how does real estate get punished? Is people, if you didn't know this, right? A lot of people use stocks to purchase homes, right? So they'll use stocks to go ahead and build, cash or save up money or invest, whatever. And when they're ready to purchase, they'll just sell out their stocks. So now let me ask you this. Do you think a lot of people are going to sell stocks if the prices are going down? Maybe they may in fear, but they probably won't put that money towards a house. They're probably like, no, I'm going to sell. I'm just going to hold off until all this, blows over. And then, I'm going to take my cash and I'm going to put it in my pocket, Everyone's going to just be in a position of just hoarding at that point, which is fine. So, but that's what we had today for you. If you do need a real estate agent in your local area, just go ahead and click the link in the description below. It should be next to the agent. It should say agent referral, wherever. Or if you want to get connected to me specifically, then you can go ahead and do so by just using that same exact link. I'm in North Carolina. I service the Raleigh and the Fayetteville market. So if you need any assistance there, I got you covered personally. But anywhere outside of that, I'm going to have to connect you to somebody that I know that will take care of you. If you don't want to tap into these on a monthly or a bi-weekly basis, then I have a newsletter I can go ahead and share with you and put you on so that you can go ahead and see what's going on within the market on a weekly basis. Because, as of right now, as you all know, I don't do this on a weekly basis. So there's weeks where, it could be important news that I am just unable to share with you because I'm not doing it. But if it's stupid important, you can expect me to be here. I'll promise you that. Like if all hell was about to break loose, yeah, I got you. I'll do a surprise when you're like, uh-oh. But with all that being said, y'all have a blessed one. A lot of y'all ain't want to pull up and show your faces today, or show your names, I should say, not your faces. But y'all have a good one. Y'all stay blessed. Y'all have a blessed rest of the week.